Hello, everybody.
Hey, Gary.
Hi, Steph.
HCAM gave us the go ahead, so we can start whenever.
All right. And just how many people we can get? Oh, the wrong list. All right. I think we have enough to get started here. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. This is Gary Trendle, Chair of the Hopkinton Planning Board. I hereby call our August 7th, 2023 meeting to order. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body as well as members of the public may access this meeting via virtual means. Participants may access the meeting through the remote meeting link as posted on the meeting agenda and through the town's online calendar. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by raising their hand or otherwise signaling their intent to speak. You can wave furiously if you really like to. This meeting will be recorded. Oops, sorry, I just lost my place. Please take care to mute your microphone unless you have been recognized by the chair. We will now confirm attendance of members. Please respond with present if you are on this call. Rob Benson? Rob is not here. I know Jane is not here. Ron?
Present.
Elise?
Present.
Matthew?
Present.
Michael?
Present.
Ferguson? Navdeep? Okay. So let me just, sorry, I'm having a little Zoom. I keep getting a Zoom window popping up here. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. So we have a quorum. Let's go ahead and get started. From an agenda perspective tonight, we have reasonably light administrative load. We've got I think, really excited to share and introduce Julia Chun, our new Sustainability, Economic Development, and Equity Project Manager. Steph, I didn't see the minutes in the meeting folder, so I don't think we have minutes tonight. You want to just confirm?
Through Chair, sorry. Yeah, I realized at the end of the day that I had not uploaded them and that people probably would not have time to review them in time. My apologies.
No worries at all. Just wanted to make sure. And then we've got continued public hearings for 188 and 190 Fruit Street, a great sidewalk a few weeks ago, week and a half ago. And we have continued public hearings on our amended regulations for inclusionary zoning and proposed regulations for electric vehicle parking. And then we have 2 new public hearings. The first is for a major project site plan at 87 Hayden Row, across from the schools. And then we have a new public hearing for a special permit for inclusionary zoning offsite unit at 0 and 24 Chestnut Street. So I think a good mix of stuff this evening. And we're going to be talking a fair amount about some of the new zoning bylaws that we have put forth. So let's go ahead and jump into our administrative items. And Julia, are you there? Can we spotlight you here?
Hi, everyone. Thanks
Hi,
for
Julia.
time. It's nice to meet all of you. I'm the new Sustainability, Economic Development, Equity Project Manager. So I look forward to joining some of these meetings, hopefully working alongside you to encourage business development, economic growth in a sustainable manner. So look forward to meeting you all in person sometime.
Thanks, Julia. And where do you come from?
So I came from the Boston Chamber of Commerce, currently living in Newton, so doing the reverse commute. Hopkinson's a great town, so I've had a great first 2 weeks.
How does it feel to be out in Western Mass?
So I actually grew up in Northborough, so I'm right.
Oh, okay, all right,
Yeah.
great. That's good. Yeah, I always chuckle at perspective from folks that are in close to the city. But that's great. I'd love for you just to share a little bit more about, you have kind of an interesting mix of roles and responsibilities. And I'm wondering if you can maybe just tell us about each of those and kind of how you balance out such a diverse set of responsibilities within the town.
That's a question I'm asking myself. So thanks, Gary. I split my days, or split my week rather, in doing equity and sustainability and economic development work. But there's some great community groups, committee groups, and volunteers in Hopkinton who have made that collaboration process really easy so far. So in terms of sustainability, one of my priorities is the climate action plan and municipal aggregation. So that's something that you guys will probably be hearing at the town meetings coming forth in the fall. In terms of business development, really working with our small businesses to ensure that they're getting the visibility that they need, and also retaining the larger businesses we have here in town, trying to diversify the tax base by attracting new businesses to Hopkinton. And in terms of equity, I'm really working with the Department of Child and Family Services and the schools to ensure that we're ensuring equitable growth, ensuring that funds are being distributed towards equity issues, both in terms of our senior population and our youth population.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to have you on our staff, and the planning board in prior years has had a lot of conversation through various initiatives, and we've been a champion for an economic development officer in some capacity. Just recognizing, I think, how important that is for us to fulfill our vision that's outlined in the master plan. So, welcome to Hopkinton. And does anybody from the board have any questions or comments for Julia?
Just a comment through the chair. I look forward to working with you, and welcome to our little corner of Massachusetts.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a breath of fresh air being in the suburbs.
Welcome, Julia. Look forward to meeting you soon.
Thank you. Look forward to meeting you too.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Julia, we sure will.
Sorry, Gary, I think you may have dropped off.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, we can.
All right. Interesting. I'm not sure what's going on. But anyways, I also want to set up some time to stop by and say hello and introduce myself in person, maybe grab some coffee, and look forward to working with you. So thanks for joining us this evening as well.
Absolutely. And for those of you who do want to visit, I am on the second floor in the accounting office, not part of the accounting department, but feel free to make a visit.
Awesome. Thank you, Julia. All right. So, oh, did you guys lose me again?
Well, we can hear you.
Can't
It's
hear you.
It's funny. It's
Now we can't hear you.
my camera. Here. All right, we'll switch cameras and see if that solves the issue. And if not, I've got one more potential resolution. So apologize about the disruption. All right, let's go to move into our first hearing tonight. This is a continued public hearing for 188 and 190 Fruit Street. Do we have the applicant on?
Good evening, Nick Scully from VHB, representing Rebel Hill LLC. Also, Rick Valarelli is also on.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Good.
Good, thank you.
Thank you for a efficient and productive site walk. I guess a week and a half ago, certainly always helpful for us. We will go ahead and continue to work through our agenda here. When we have an outline that we use, sorry, not an agenda, but an outline that we use. Really quickly, do you want to just give us a status update as to anything that's changed, and I guess in particular, where you are with regards to both Concom and with regards to the engineering peer review comments?
Sure. So we received the peer review comments at the end of last week. We actually submitted a response to those at the end of the day today, so I'm sure no one's had a chance to read those. But I think we're pretty close. And hopefully we can, a few conditions, but I think we're hopefully working through everything. We did have the conservation site walk a few days after we walked with you guys. We made so as part of the comment response letter that we submitted to you guys and for beta to review, we did make a few minor changes, not really to the plan, but more to the construction sequencing after our walk with conservation, just on when the stormwater infrastructure should go in, and then when it's going to be cleaned at the end. And then we also submitted a plan, which we reviewed with the fire department. So we submitted all those figures, and we also submitted a plan of the golf course itself, which shows where we intend the export to go, as well as where the new landscape debris pile is going to be on the golf course. I know conservation with our walk, they were very interested in that. So we included a map showing those locations as well, because it is a good amount of export, but there's some locations that the golf course has flagged for that to make some hills and whatnot on the course to get rid of that.
All right, and just remind us again, just the term export. What do you mean by export?
So the site itself is going to be a cut site, so there will need to be material that leaves. We did recently submit for the earthwork permit as well, so that will be coming in front of you guys. But that's with the septic system and some of the cuts for the driveway that we looked at. Overall, we will need to export material. The commission, I guess, Conservation Commission had some issues with projects getting locations to export that in the past. So they wanted to just know where that was going to be going. Was it going to be going to some facility, or did we have somewhere on site? And we do have a place earmarked on the golf course site to get rid of that material. Good. We do have our next hearing with them is actually tomorrow night. So we haven't had a hearing with them since our site walk.
Okay, great. So, for this evening, what we can do is we can just continue to work through the agenda, specifically discussion around decision criteria, waivers, findings, and so forth. My preference, though, is that we hold off on taking a final vote or closing it until you get through Concom. But I think we've got time. You're on tonight, so let's go ahead and see if we can kind of pick away at going through the outline and make some progress there. Does that sound okay to you?
That's great. Yep.
All right, so just for folks following along at home, I'm using the outline on page 5. We've been through the project instruction, the staff report, and the site walk, so we'll move into the review of decision criteria. And just to remind everyone why they are before us, the board must determine that if the proposed work complies with the Hopkinton stormwater regulations, which in turn require compliance with Mass DEP stormwater standards. So we just gotta make sure that they comply. And then if there are any waivers requested, which we can talk about in a little bit, the board must determine whether it's appropriate to grant them based on whether they're allowable by federal, state, and local statutes and regulations, that they're in the public interest, and that they're not inconsistent with the purpose and intent of the bylaw. And then the board may also impose conditions that survive the completion and approval of as-built plans, things that we might feel are important to the board and to the town. Does anyone have any questions about decision criteria or how we should be reviewing this? This is one where we're going to lean pretty heavily on Beta. Because candidly, none of us on the board are stormwater experts. So, you know, and Nick, we appreciate you working through it with them because this process goes much easier when applicants are aligned with our peer review engineers. So appreciate that. Any questions at this point from the board? You know, and I actually, you know, as I think about it, is anyone from Beta on? Still on?
I'm here.
Phil. Hey, Phil.
Yes.
How are
How are
you?
you doing?
Good. I was just thinking that before we get into waivers and findings and potential conditions, and I know that you have not had a chance to review the response from the applicant yet, but would you be willing to just give us a quick summary of things in particular that the board should be thinking about as we review and vote on this application?
Yeah. So the applicant has provided a significant amount of information relative to the permit itself and addressed the majority of the comments. The challenge I see for this site particular, and it's not the engineer's issue. This is another site with C and D soils, and the project involves excavation and removal of a lot of soils and 2-to-1 slopes, and all these similar to other sites that we've had issues with. They are also proposing to use a less conservative value for infiltration based on their testing, the soil pit testing. However, it's been our experience that the NRCS mapping has been more accurate than our observations. The soils on site are all listed as sandy loam and various types of sandy loam, but the NRCS has rated them different infiltration rates. And so that makes me nervous, particularly two of the infiltration systems are in what NRC has mapped sea soils and are going to be subsurface systems. And so we will probably never know if they're working properly or not. Plus the applicant, not all of the BMPs have soil tests in their footprint. So I don't think they're all huge items. I just want to make sure we don't have issues similar to other projects in the town where we've had questionable soils. So that's kind of the biggest thing. There are some other things that could be conditioned. There is the new information that we received prior to the one that was issued today was there is potentially a more of a upgradient runoff flow onto the site from the golf course itself. And we would want to know what impact that has on their BMPs and the overall protection of the residents there and also the road, Fruit Street itself. So that's the kind of the general gist of my comments. I have not had a chance to look at what was submitted today. So if those are all addressed, so be it. But yeah, no, a lot of it, I think the applicant, other than the location of the infiltration systems themselves, the test pits themselves, the applicant has addressed all our comments. But we, like I said, we are more concerned about the C and D rated soils on site or in the vicinity of the site.
All right. Thanks, Phil. That is super useful to put some context around where the big challenges are. Nick and Richard, thank you guys for staying on top of this and providing a lot of information. I'm actually I think it makes sense to hold on the waivers and conditions until we just get through this next round of back and forth between the applicant and Beta. Just because I think that sometimes those discussions will spur other potential conditions or even in some cases potential waivers or waiver requests. But I do want to take a moment and see first if any members of the board have any questions or comments, and then secondly if there are any members of the public that have questions or comments. So we'll start with the board.
Hey, through the chair. Phil, you did mention something about concerns about Fruit Street, and I think you also said Huckleberry. Is there concerns about runoff going all that way across the interstate, or did I misunderstand that?
I don't think I mentioned Huckleberry. I don't even know what Huckleberry is.
I thought I heard something, but that's my bad.
That would be awesome if it went across the highway.
That's why I thought I misheard it, but I wanted to make sure.
Thanks, Ronnie. Appreciate you asking the question, though. Any other questions or comments? All right. Nick and Richard, are you guys okay if we continue to the August 21st meeting?
Yeah, I think we're okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then Steph or John, do we need to extend the decision as well?
We do. August 28th would be good.
August 28th. Okay. So then on that, I will entertain a motion to continue this public hearing to August 21st and the decision to August 28th.
So moved, Ron Draper.
Second, Matthew Vronka.
Assuming no further discussion, Ron, how do you vote?
Ron Draper, yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Navdeep?
Yes.
Elise?
Yes.
And Gary is a yes as well. Did I miss anybody?
It's me. Because.
Vikas. Sorry. Vikas, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I was just with people absent. I couldn't go off my cheat sheet here. And the way Zoom works is if your camera's on, it'll usually bump you to the top of the list. So I didn't scroll down far enough. Maybe actually, as I look at it, no, not quite an alphabetical order either. Anyways, thank you. I appreciate it. So guys, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. So thank you for the update and good luck with Concom tomorrow.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Through the chair.
All right.
Michael needs to sign a missed meeting certificate for this hearing and send it to Steph.
For the Fruit Street one? Okay.
Through the chair, also
Yes.
for the amended regulations, inclusionary zoning, and the electric vehicle parking.
Okay.
So Michael, you should have that in your inbox. If you
Yep.
don't, reach out to
Yep.
me or Steph. Sign
I
it. Sign it,
watched
send
a
it over.
replay of the meeting as well too. I saw. So yeah.
All right. So just for, since we have a few other new members of the board, if you miss a meeting, it is permissible to watch the replay of it and then sign off that you watched it so that you are informed, and that is what enables you to vote on that hearing when it continues. But there is a limit. You can only miss and make up, is it 2 sessions?
Through the chair.
If you
One.
miss the second one, yeah, you can only miss one. If you miss
You
the
can only
second
miss one.
you are ineligible.
Thank you. Thank you. So you're allowed to miss one and you can watch the video. If you miss 2, then you can no longer vote on it. So it's one of the reasons attendance is helpful for us, and people start missing meetings. We can sometimes run into problems with eligible voters. So, all right. Moving forward to our continued public hearings for our amended regulations. We can go ahead and start with the inclusionary zoning bylaw. And John, after you and I talked this afternoon, I went through and read through them again. And I think they're exceptionally well written and modified. I honestly was looking for something to amend or propose changes to, and I didn't find anything. Did you get any feedback from? We'll start with the inclusionary zoning bylaw. But did you get any feedback from anyone else on potential changes?
No, I have not.
Okay. Members of the board, hopefully you were able to fulfill your homework assignment and read through these. Does anybody have any suggested changes or edits to the amended inclusionary zoning bylaw? And if members of the board do not, are there any members of the public that have questions or comments about them? All right, so I guess then, John, if we have no edits, then we can go ahead and move this forward to a vote. Just checking my notes here. So are we voting to approve? No, we're voting to adopt these regulations. Is that the right terminology for the motion?
Why don't you say you move to vote? You move to approve and adopt. Cover
Okay.
both bases.
So I will entertain a motion to approve and adopt the amended bylaws for inclusionary zoning as provided in the meeting minutes and as reviewed in our public hearings.
So moved, Ron Prefer.
Second, Matthew Franke.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Ron, how do you vote?
Ron Prefer, yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Navdeep?
Yes.
Elise?
Yes.
Vigaseth?
Yes.
And Gary is a yes as well. So those are approved. And I guess maybe we'll get through both of these and then we can go ahead and close these public hearings. The second one is for the electric vehicle parking proposed regulations. These, as I'm sure you all noted, are written from scratch. Although I know that the Sustainable Green Committee and Zach put quite a bit of time, as well as John for that matter, sorry, John, I don't mean to discount your work on these because you wrote them. But they've had a lot of thought that's been put into them, but these are also entirely new. So there's no redlined copy to review. Certainly a lot of technical information in them. I appreciate the level of specificity and I think alignment with what I hope is standard terminology. John, did you get any comments or feedback on the electric vehicle parking proposed regulations?
No, I didn't. And I didn't get comments back from the electrical inspector either. So I would recommend we hold off on voting on this one until I can confirm that that's okay with them.
Okay. I think that makes sense because, yeah, I don't think any of us want to propose something that has some implementation challenge from a electrical requirements perspective. So
Through the chair,
yes, Steph.
I'll reach out to him again and ask him if he can get a chance to review those.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any questions or comments from the board or from the public?
Well, Chair, John, that was well written. I've seen that EV document. At least being an EV user, I didn't find anything. Thank you for taking that.
Good.
I just have one question, I guess.
Yes, Matthew, as another EV user.
As another EV user, yeah, through the chair. I'm curious if we should consider conspicuousness of the posted information under G, or if we think it's fine with the wording that it is. That was the only comment I had on it. The following information shall be posted at all EVSEs on that sentence G1A.
G1A?
Yeah.
G is submission requirements.
Oh, I've got technical requirements. GG, yeah.
John, we have
GG1A.
two G sections.
Nice catch.
Matthew,
Second G.
You were subtly in a nicer way pointing that out, weren't you? All right, so as I read this, you said G1A.
Yeah.
Following information shall be I can't share. John, do you want to share really quick just so people can follow? Or if you want to give me permission, I can share. So scroll down to the second section G. G1A EVSC installed. The following information shall be posted at all electric vehicle. What's the S? Electric vehicle.
It's electric vehicle. Now I'm blanking on it. EVSE installed is where do we have it? EVSE, electrical vehicle supply equipment.
Yep, there you go. Apparently I should have read more closely as well. The following information shall be posted on all EVSEs: voltage and amperage levels, hours of operation, usage fees, safety information, contact information for reporting when the equipment is not operating or other problems. So Matthew, you just wanted to make sure that we called out that it was visibly posted?
Yeah, basically, if there's any wording we should have around that, or if that's covered by something more general.
So maybe we just modify that to say the following information shall be posted and visible at all EVSEs.
So through the chair, I actually like Matthew's suggestion of conspicuously. That kind of makes it's posted visually and obviously so people can see it. I think that makes sense.
Okay. Works for me. Any objections to that? All right. Any other comments or thoughts? All right. then on that note, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to continue this public hearing to August 21st, 2023.
So
Move, Ron Prefer.
second, Matthew Franca.
All right. Thank you both. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Ron, how do you vote?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
Navdeep?
Yes.
Elise?
Yes.
Vikasith?
Yes.
And Gary is a yes as well. So hopefully we can wrap this up at the next meeting, but appreciate everyone's thoughts and comments on it tonight. All right. So I do still need to go back and close the public hearing for the inclusionary zoning amended regulations. So I will entertain a motion to close the hearings for the inclusionary zoning amended regulations.
Move, Ron Prefer.
Second, Matthew Franca.
All right. So no further discussion. Ron, how do you vote?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Navdeep?
Yes.
Elise?
Yes.
Vikasith?
Yes.
And Gary is a yes as well. All right, moving on to our new public hearings. And at this point, I think we're actually running a little ahead of schedule, but we'll go ahead and I'll entertain a motion to open both public hearings for 87 Hayden Row and for 0/24 Chestnut Street.
So moved, Ron Prefer.
Second, Matthew Franca.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Ron, how do you vote?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Navdeep?
Yes.
Elise?
Yes.
Vikasith?
Yes.
And Gary is a yes as well. All right. Do we have the applicant on for 87 Hayden Row?
Well, I'm here. This is Scott Richardson. I think Dave
Hi,
Mark is
Scott.
here. Hi. And I would assume that Ken is there as well. I see Ken. Yeah.
I'm here.
Hello, Ken. How are you?
Good.
I bet you guys are happy to hear that we're running a little ahead of schedule tonight.
Oh, always.
All right. Well, you guys have been through this process before, but let's go ahead and we have an outline that we use to work through these types of hearings. So let's go ahead and get started. And maybe if you want to quickly begin by giving us an introduction and overview of the project that you are proposing.
Ken, you want to do that?
Sure. The property is 87 Hayden Row. It's across the street from the basketball courts, next to the school administration building. It's currently a apartment building. No tenants have been in there since the beginning of the year. And essentially we're proposing to demo the building. We got approval from the Historical Commission to do that. And put in a office building of a kind of more of a traditional historic style. And then provide parking around the rear of the building. I'm also own a company called Select Energy, and the goal and intent is to locate our business into the building. I don't know if we'll take full advantage of the entire building, but we'd be moving from the 89 Hayden Row location right next door into the 87 building. If you're somewhat familiar with it, it's currently in the rear, a contractor equipment that will all obviously be removed parking lot and kind of redo that space appropriately, landscaping, and I think a well deserved upgrade for that part of town.
Thank you. You want to walk through some of the plans and the visuals that you have? I think that helps give us a good perspective, and either John can share those from his computer, or we can give either one of you permission to share your screen.
Yeah, I'll defer to Scott.
Yeah, if John wants to pull those up, that'd be fine. And just some background, we have been in front of the historic commission in town, and they did at first thought there would be some benefit for some restoration. But then at our second hearing, they did give us unanimous approval to demolish the building that's there. Big issue with it is it basically is not in compliance with setbacks and would have been difficult to kind of incorporate into the design. So I can walk through, the basic concepts of the approach. We basically are providing a common driveway, if you will, that is actually there, but we're going to be improving it based on Dave Marquardant's layouts and basically accessing all the way down to the back of the property. So our proposed building it's about a 6,000 square foot footprint. The front of it aligns with 89 Hayden Row. So we'll have a nice alignment along Hayden Row Street. And we have a front entrance, and then we have a rear entrance that has a portico over it. And then we have a parking area of 38 plus or minus spaces to the back that are, again, all accessed off of this common drive area. And then to the rear, you can see, again, there's under the parking lot is our stormwater retention structures. And then to the rear is I think it's about is it 40 by 60, I believe, garage building. Storage building that may be built at a later time, but basically we want to get it approved with this approval. And then we have Dave's developed a good turnaround area and confirmed that the driveways and access through the parking lots as well as to the rear work for all the fire department vehicles.
So just to summarize, you've got plans for two buildings with a pretty good sized parking lot in between.
Correct.
Anything else from a site perspective that's worth noting?
Yeah, I think I'll let Dave chime in on some other things. I just wanted to point out that the select offices are in that front 89 Hayden Row building, and there's a break between the two buildings. There's a lot of storage units to the back, and we will be developing a nicer pedestrian walkway from that area over to a sidewalk that connects to both the front and the rear entrance to our new building.
And Scott, if I could add real quickly, kind of separately but connected to this, we will be updating the 89 Hayden Row building from a look and feel to be similar to the new 87 Hayden Row. So there'll be additional updates for the building next door at 89 Hayden Row.
That's great. Thank you. I got to ask, and I probably should save my questions, but I'm assuming you're planning for some solar installation on this as well?
Good question and good assumption. On the south side of the building there, which won't be visible to I don't believe it'll be visible to the street. There'll be a small solar system on that. And then also on the building in the rear, we'll be adding a solar system as well.
Right, and do you want to pull up the elevations?
So generally, this is the view from Hayden Row. Unfortunately, no matter what we did, the toning as we produce these PDFs tends to make the building look pink. Might have something to do with the pink tree to the left, but in fact, the building will be white, clapboard siding, and we'll have a black metal roof over that front porch, and then the shingles will be black. The windows will be black mullions and trim within the window. We are working on kind of adding a little bit of extending the windows on the first floor, so they'll have a transom, so we'll have more light coming into the first floor. But basically, we've taken the module and imagery of 89 Hayden Row and kind of repeated it here for the two end gable elements, and then connecting them with a gabled roof between. So we think the rhythm of this building will play very nicely with the 89 Hayden Row building. And complement it as well. And as Ken said, he's going to be residing 89 with white clapboards as well, and then doing a black roof with some metal accents. So the two buildings will complement each other very nicely.
That's a nice upgrade.
Again, sorry for the pink.
Definitely looks pink there.
Yeah, so floor plans, elevations, and then this is a kind of something we did to try and chat with the Historic Commission. Again, on the left we have the Parmenter Irvine building, and then this is the bottom elevation, and that's the existing apartment building, and then obviously quite a bit of space between that building and 89 Hayden Row. And basically the apartment building, the left side of it is essentially on the property line. So basically, again, what we've done is we've moved the new building to the south, and again, replicated the massing of 89 in our new building. And our new building will be much closer, obviously, to 89, and provide some breathing room as you enter that driveway to access all the parking areas.
And I think another critical point is the existing apartment building is technically non-conforming by code because it's zoned business over there, commercial. And it's also right on, as Scott alluded to, it's also right on the property line. So like 5 feet off the property line. So we're going to be moving it over and opening that space up.
All right. Thank you guys for the overview. We'll pause for just a second here and see if any members of the board have any questions or comments for either Ken or for Scott, or for Dave, for that matter.
Hey guys.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry, Michael. Let's go. Navdeep had his hand raised. He raised his hand.
Yep.
So we'll start with Navdeep.
Yeah, I guess one question was, when do you anticipate the construction to start? Because it was right across the high school, that the going in and out and the traffic is already tough. So I guess what would you do to be sensitive to that part?
Well, we hope to anticipate probably in the mid-late fall timeframe, and I'm not sure that we would be interfering too much with the traffic over there or the existing traffic. So there'll be some site work to be done, quite a bit of site work for the drainage. And then the actual start with the demolition and then the construction. So I think there'll be periods of, activity, but overall we hope to construct over this winter and have it ready late next spring is our goal.
Okay, and just to address that again, all vehicles then, right now, there are some curb cuts that are on the south side of the building. Those would be abandoned. So all traffic, for businesses that are within this area, as well as our construction vehicles, would all be entering at the one location, which actually provides better visibility and is a little further away from the high school entrance there.
Thank you both. Michael.
Yeah, my question was along that line too. I was curious, in that image you had up before, where the entrance to the driveway was going to be now.
So as you face the building, it'll be to the left. Today, the entrance is to the right of the building between 89 and 87.
Yeah.
So it'd be to the north of 87 and make the driveway more of a street width, technically 24 foot wide. So it'd be more conforming to a street. The town, there's been a lot of discussion, is it, Colonial Ave? And we're going to formalize it as a egress, but by making it 24 foot wide. So that to do that, we're going to take some of the space of the property line to accommodate that.
And it'll be a little bit further away from the high school, basically. So
correct.
Yes.
Because so any houses or needs to be informed in and around this new building which is coming up, and do the school committee has been notified, or do we need to notify anything needs required as part of the process?
I have communicated with the school in particular as to both the construction of 87 and also working with them in terms of any impact from the siding and roofing and noise that might affect them. So we would work with them appropriately, but we've alerted them to the upgrades that are coming.
And I'm assuming that all of the required notifications to abutters have gone out for the public hearing?
Correct.
Yeah.
All
right. Go ahead. You have another question?
Yes, I've noted that there's a parking which you're talking about, like 45 proposed off-street parkings and 25 proposed in the building parking. I'm just trying to understand, is that the total 45 includes the 25, or is it, sorry, maybe I misread it. I need to find it quickly. But some clarification on that parking.
I could answer that. This is Dave. Based on the building size for the phase one, the front building, we're required to have 38 spaces. We've provided 40 spaces. That includes 2 handicaps up front, close to the building. The phase 2 building, which is a 40 by 50, 2,000 square foot building, phase 2 requires 2 spaces. We've provided 5, including 1 handicap. So we do have a total of 45 spaces.
Thanks, Dave. And this parking will be taken care of with the new EV regulations which we are being proposed as part of.
Yes, we're proposing five spaces for that, designated as spaces 34 through 38 on the parking scheme.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you.
Is 5 going to be enough, Ken?
We might plan for future, but for now, we are fully in support of it. So,
no doubt. All right. John, do you want to go ahead and walk us through the staff report?
Sure. Not much more to add. Standard site plan. They just answered my main question of how many EV spaces are you going to have, and are they going to be EVSE installed, or are they going to be EV ready? It sounds like they're going to be 5 EVSE installed spaces. So that's good to hear. And other than that, I don't really have any comments until we get the peer review back.
Yeah, so just a quick update. Like all of our projects, we utilize a peer-reviewed engineer to validate and highlight any potential concerns from a town perspective. And we are, in the past we've used, in my tenure, we've used almost exclusively Beta for those purposes, but we are using a different peer-reviewed engineer. And so, I think that at least initially it's just taking a little bit longer as they learn us and our processes and bylaws and regulations. It might just be taking a little bit more time to get that review done, but hopefully they'll have that completed, or the first round of that completed soon.
So through the chair, I think there's a perfect segue to introduce our peer review consultant. So we're actually taking a different tack this time. We've basically taken on 3 different peer review consultants. 2 of them have signed the contract. We're still trying to get the last one signed. So the first peer review consultant that we have is Weston and Sampson. Some of you may be familiar with Weston and Sampson. They've done work for the town before. Darren Kirkjian is the contact over at Weston and Sampson, and he is on the call. So you can ask him questions now. Darren, if you want to give them a quick overview as to where you are with this review, that would be helpful. And I don't know, through the chair, if you want him to give a little background on Weston Sampson, or if that's good for a different time.
Yeah, I don't think we need to do that, but Darren, if since you're on, and apologize, I didn't realize you were going to be on. If you could maybe just give an update as to how things are progressing in the review, I think that we'd love to hear an update.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair and John. Yeah, so I'm Darren Kirkjian. I'm a team leader with Weston and Sampson. And can you all hear me okay? I was having some mic issues just a little bit ago, but so yeah, we are a peer review. Well, we're an engineering consulting company. We've done a lot of work with the town of Hopkinton. We've done peer reviews across New England, and are excited to be helping the planning board here in the town of Hopkinton. So for 87 Hayden Row Street, as John was mentioning, we're just kind of newly under contract, getting up to speed on the town bylaws for these, in this case, the major project site plan review. So we have our stormwater team looking at the stormwater management approach. We're also doing bylaw compliance review. And our plan is to present at the next hearing in 2 weeks, and also issue ahead of that hearing our peer review memo. And also, I think we've been encouraged to reach out directly to the applicant to kind of move things along if we have questions or comments. So we'll be coordinating directly with the applicant as well, with updating the planning board and the town.
Great, thank you, Darren. Nice to meet you. And I think, as you alluded to, we have no hesitancy to lean in on you as our peer-reviewed engineer, and we also have a strong preference to work through as many of the points of discussion outside of the meeting process. And certainly, there will be things that you and the applicant will want to put before us, and we'll be prepared to talk about those. But in my experience, most of the stuff can be worked through offline, and like I said, we really lean in on your services to help us ensure that what's being proposed is meets all of our current standards. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And actually, I forgot to mention too, we had actually worked right in this area on the water main or the water tank replacement for the town. So we're familiar with this part of Hayden Row, and the proximity of all the schools. So the pedestrian traffic and school safety is critical too. So it's great to hear the applicants already reached out to the school to flag the upcoming construction.
Awesome. Thanks, Darren.
Yeah.
All right, so you'll just realistically, when do you think you'll have that review completed and in the applicant's hands? Because just from past experience, usually there's at least one more round to get through. Is Is that
Yes,
close or
yes.
imminent?
We are still working through the memo, so we were targeting actually next Wednesday to issue the memo itself. We have a pretty large multidisciplinary team on our peer review board, so we have to have some internal reviews. So we target about 2 weeks from notice to proceed. So that's put us to next Wednesday, and then we'll, if we do have intervening questions ahead of time, we'll reach out to the applicant to make sure we can kind of address those ahead of time, and then present our initial findings and major suggestions at the next hearing in 2 weeks.
Okay, great. Thanks, Darren.
Gary?
Yes, Dave.
Since we have Darren on the line, and also the board, maybe we could bring the board up to speed as to some of our discussions that we've had with water and sewer, if that's
Sure.
okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So as part of our pre-submission meeting, in addition to our pre-submission meeting, we've had a variety of meetings with Dave Del Terrio, the facilities engineer, about, as Scott had alluded to, the existing curb cut off of Hayden Row Street between 89 and 87. That's going away, and we are going to repair the sidewalk at that location. We've also had discussions with Dave Del Terrio about slightly widening the opening, street opening of this access driveway between building 85 and 87. We're also lining our driveway along the right-hand side as you drive in. We're providing granite curbing along the right-hand side of all the islands, and a slight granite curbing on the left on the 85 side. The southern side of the proposed parking is all bituminous concrete. We've had discussions with water. We do have an existing, what we think is an 8-inch water main in our driveway now, which is acceptable to the water department. We are providing new water services, or the ability for new water services, to 85, 87, number 1, and then our 2 buildings, 87 and 87R. We're also extending the sewer from this existing sewer manhole at the traffic light back to our property, and giving the ability for sewer for those other buildings plus ours as well. All the utilities, we have above ground utility poles now. All our utilities will be underground going forward. As part of the initial submission to the project, we had created an easement plan with all these abutters. That easement plan has been finalized. We have a copy to John, and it's been recorded at the Registry of Deeds. So we have reciprocating easements across the driveways for access and extending utilities to each building. And power, underground power to all the buildings as well. So pretty inclusive, we think.
That's great.
Just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you bringing it up. And, at least from what we've heard so far, it sounds like a really nice improvement for a highly visible part of the town. So appreciate the work on everyone's part. So we do customarily like to do site walks. And I realize this is one that many of us drive by on a regular basis. But I'll also say I don't think I've ever been on a site walk where I wasn't enlightened with some additional information or thoughts that I wouldn't have gotten without the sidewalk. So if it's okay, we'd like to schedule something with the applicant. We normally do these on Saturday mornings. And would you guys be open to doing a site walk on a Saturday morning?
I absolutely would. I would have a conflict, not this Saturday, the following Saturday. Good friends have a wedding up in Maine. So if we could coordinate it sooner than later, I guess is is my
Okay.
ask.
And I will say in full disclosure, I am not available on either Saturday, either of the next 2 Saturdays. Not a requirement that I'm there. It's not a public meeting, but I've got a wedding in Philadelphia this Saturday, and then the next Saturday I'm picking my daughter up from camp up in New Hampshire. So I will not be available either one. But for those of us that are on the call from the planning board tonight, how does this coming Saturday morning work?
I will be out of town the next 2 Saturdays, so the earliest Saturday is the 26th on my end.
Okay, so you're out this Saturday?
And the next one. 12th and 12th and 19th.
Okay.
I won't be here the 12th.
I will be here the 12th. The 19th might be difficult.
Okay.
The same year, 12th won't work. 19th, I'm available.
Oh.
So
I will be here the 12th. I could be the only one.
I guess I have a boring lifestyle. So I'm not going anywhere. So I'm here. The earlier, the better for me doing it on a Saturday.
Okay. I mean, we could consider another time. Well, I'm not here this Friday either, so that won't work. But you know, Ken, let me ask you this. Maybe what we do is we schedule it for this Saturday morning. Is there? I mean, the site itself is pretty accessible. If those of us that can't attend on Saturday, if we wanted to just stop by and walk the site, is that an option, or is that something you'd rather have us be guided?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. The highlights would be, obviously the equipment that's been historically there is obviously going to be removed. We've been working with the previous owner, accordingly. I would certainly entertain a, early evening walk with the daylight if that helps folks. I would love to be there. And sensitive to that, we're in summertime and people's schedules are busy. I think I'll just speak to kind of more emotionally here. What we're really trying to do is, fix up that part of town with the building, clearly accommodate, appropriately drainage, storm water management, and work with the town to, create a better view at that corner. And so we're, we think it's pretty, what we're trying to do speaks for itself, but certainly would like to answer and convince the board that we're going to do it right.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question for folks. And Ken, you prompted an idea for me, but I'm wondering if people might be available next Monday evening. And I certainly would, but I've just given that it's a summertime, not sure if that's better, but we could do 6 or 7 p.m. I don't expect this to be a very long site walk because it's a pretty straightforward site, but members of Ken, would that work for you?
Absolutely. I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate my birthday.
Oh, look at that.
But no, absolutely. That would be great.
Members of the board, how does Monday evening work?
I don't think I'll be back by Monday.
He'll be out of town.
I'm in California next week too.
Okay. Vic, Navdeep?
I'm flexible. I want to be easy. Whatever is available, I'm good with it.
I'm just thinking of which date we have more people for.
Maybe we can break into groups given it's summer.
Well, no, I don't want to make them do it twice. That's just
I could independently walk the site. I pass by there every day when I take my kids to the playground. So I could just keep them strapped in the stroller and do a quick site walk myself.
Who do we lose if we do it Monday night that could have done it on Saturday morning? Oh, at least you could have done it Saturday morning? Oh.
Depending on the time, it might be difficult, but I'll try to get it due Monday if we do that.
Matthew, what time works for you?
5 sharp would probably be easiest, or 5:15.
Okay.
If it's quick, I might be able to do 6.
Okay. I'm going to propose we do 6 and keep it short. I think this could be a 15-minute sidewalk, only because I'm going to have a hard time getting there much earlier. So does that sound okay for folks? Monday at 6 o'clock?
Works for me.
Ken, where should we park?
There's plenty of room right on site in the existing driveway to the right of the apartment building, and kind of easy. So.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Is there any preliminary public comment or questions on this project? All right, and then so seeing none, I'm gonna recommend that we continue this to the 21st. And my thoughts are, you know, I am hopeful this is going to be pretty straightforward, but you know, between the peer review report and the site walk, I think that's going to enable us to move forward pretty efficiently when we reconvene in 2 weeks.
Excuse me.
Sorry. Oh, hi, Rhonda. Did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, we have a couple questions. It's Rhonda and Steve Petrovsky from 2 Hazel Road. Sorry for the delay.
No, that's okay. We're glad you're here.
Steve, I think you had something you wanted to ask.
I think we've had some initial discussions with Dave regarding some of the, I guess, the stormwater runoff for the property. And I don't know if we've ever came to any kind of a conclusion on that, because we are probably going to be the most impacted. When it rains here, we have water coming into our whole backyard and all the way down into the front roadway. So it's pretty massive. So I guess need to know what, you know, we're putting in all they're proposing putting in pavement. How is that going to get treated? Where's the water going to run to?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And that's one of the reasons that we have a peer-reviewed engineer to make sure that that is designed properly. In general, I should probably defer to Dave here, but given when that building was built and when that site work was done, I'm willing to bet that the standard for stormwater management is substantially higher now than when it was built. So I'm cautiously hopeful that you'll see some pretty significant improvement there. But Dave, do you have any preliminary comments with regards to the question?
Yeah, we had walked with Steve and Rhonda and given them an original preliminary set of plans a few months ago. We actually have been trying to, the three of us have been trying to connect for a couple of weeks now, and based on work schedules, it hasn't worked out. But Steve and Rhonda, it's a little bit different than what we, the buildings that we talked about, the sizes of the buildings and the placement of the buildings is exactly the same as what you saw in the plans previously. The limit of the parking is exactly the same. Number of spaces is the same. The little driveway turnout behind the back building is the same for the fire, per fire code. What we did add is we did add a detention basin behind you. You may remember that the site currently has no lawn, has broken up pavement, is all gravel, and has no drainage whatsoever. And all that drainage comes down and hits your property and properties on either side of you. So we're proposing, just like we had indicated previously, 2 underground drainage facilities, one behind the front building and one in front of the back building, and then a detention basin from that roadway behind the fire road to your house. We have a detention basin collecting all the water. So I'd be glad to show you and share the plans again with you. Maybe we could do a site walk as well in the near future and show you our latest plans.
I will just add one more thing to that, Steve and Rhonda, is that the site walk next Monday evening is, you're welcome to join that as well. Those are open to the public, and then while it's not an official formal meeting, you're more than welcome to join.
Okay, thank you.
The other question we had was probably having to do, now that you're also proposing doing a solar panel. Are there any plans as far as screening? Because right now, even with the existing buildings that are there, the administration buildings, every time cars go by, we get the light shining right into our family room, like nonstop. And so this is probably going to create more lights. And obviously, there'll probably be even lights in the parking lot. Any form of mitigation on that?
Gary, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
I had passed on that concern. I think there was a light that came off of one of the back buildings to Ken Driscoll. Ken has changed that light and has changed the direction of that light. Also on our plan, we've located the trees between the detention basin and your property. This is a series of trees that we're leaving. We're also adding a 2-foot high berm. It's 90 feet long, and we're proposing low growth pine trees as a screening in addition to all the existing trees. We're maintaining 25 feet from your wall, your property line in Ken's as existing, as is, except for this berm. And the berm fits around the existing trees. So no trees will be cut between the basin, the back of the basin, and your property line. And all the trees at the stone wall are going to remain. Those are shown on the plan as well. I could share those with you as well.
And Dave, if I can add to part of the concern, that screening will extend across into the 89 Hayden Row property as well, which I think addresses the concern.
That's what we have for now, but I'd like to have a closer look at some of the plans. So,
sure. Can you attend on Monday?
We might be able to be back. We are traveling, hopefully, depending on traffic, we should be back by then. So
okay.
And by the
it would
way,
be great.
Happy to meet later if that helps you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah. And Steve and Rhonda, please, make sure that you're asking your questions as we get into the details of the peer review on the next meeting as well. I will say, all the sort of the side meetings and even the site walk, that's not recorded or documented and whatnot. So it's always beneficial to have the discussions in a public forum where everything is documented and recorded and whatnot. So not to Ken and Dave and Scott, not to say that you guys would do anything different, but in general, we are better off if we have these types of discussions and questions in the public meeting, public hearing.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes, John.
2 points. So since you brought up that site walk not being recorded or any notes taken, just want to reiterate that no questions should be asked, no discussion should take place, no deliberations between the planning board members should take place during those site walks. It's just to see the site, get an idea as to what's out there. The second thing is a question to the applicant. In the pre-submission meeting, I think we noted that a stormwater management permit was also required. I don't see any files, and I don't believe we advertised for one. So do you intend on submitting a stormwater management permit application?
I was unaware, that slipped my mind. So yes, we are. We will be submitting that. Yep.
So if you get that in, we can just advertise it and then throw it in with the rest of the site plan and take them together. We just need to get the advertisements done.
Okay. And that's going to need to go to peer review as well, correct?
Correct. Yeah, but I mean, it should be reviewed the same.
Yep.
Site plan requires stormwater regs be followed, and same as
Right.
stormwater management.
Right. Yep.
It's just a procedural thing.
All right. Any other questions, or comments from either the board or from the public? All right, appreciate the collaboration and the openness, and glad to see. Always happy when members of the public are here and engaging. So thank you, Steve and Rhonda, and appreciate the willingness of the applicants to be flexible and open in these discussions as well. So I will entertain a motion to continue this public hearing to August 21st, 2023.
So moved, Ron Prefer.
Second, Matthew Vronka.
Assuming no further discussion, Ron, how do you vote?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Navdeep?
Yes.
Elise?
Yes.
Vikasith?
Yes.
And Gary is a yes as well. So we'll see some of you next Monday, 6 p.m. And thanks everyone for a good discussion on this.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. And so our last public hearing tonight is for 0/24 Chestnut Street. For the applicants, we actually already voted to open it. So we can go ahead and get into it. Is the applicant here on the call?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hi, Rick. We can hear you.
Wonderful.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We have an outline that we follow for these types of things. And typically what we do is we start out with an opening from you and really just an overview of why you are before us this evening. Give us a sense for what you have proposed, and then we'll go ahead and work our way through the outline.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. And thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. My name is Rick Olstein. I'm with Keystone Development. We are the applicant for tonight's application. This is in conjunction with a 7-lot, I believe what will be a 7-lot subdivision that we are contemplating at 24 Chestnut Street. Our understanding is that that subdivision will trigger the inclusionary development bylaw. And so in conjunction with that, we are requesting a special permit to provide an affordable unit at a location that is not part of the development. We believe that this will be beneficial to the town as it will immediately increase the town's affordable housing stock while not really burdening the town with having to assign the resources from both a time or a financial standpoint, because we'll be taking care of both of those things. So we understand that this special permit will be contingent on a permit for the subdivision, and to some degree vice versa, and exactly how the mechanics of those two things being tied together will work. I'm not totally sure, but we're happy to be flexible, and we hope to work with the board as well as the abutters to come up with a way to provide this unit in a way that's transparent and serves the town's goals and our goals in trying to move forward with the development of the property. So that's a brief overview. I can give you more information about us, our company, or any of those types of things, but I'm not here represented by counsel or anybody else tonight. I'm just here meeting with you guys and want to get the process started.
All right. Thanks, Rick. And just a couple of quick comments from me. For those of you that follow along with planning board activities or town meeting, we have just recently updated our bylaws for affordable housing requirements associated with subdivisions. Normally speaking, in my past, we would address the affordability component as part of the subdivision review process. And Rick, if I can speak on your behalf, I think the reason you're here before us for the special permit, one, because the special permit process is new for us as a town, as an option of providing for affordable housing. And secondly, because my guess is that you want to kind of assess and get a sense for what the requirements might be before you go through the process of the full submission for the subdivision. Is that a fair synopsis of?
It is, and I would add to that without sort of knowing this answer, we can't really fully design the subdivision. So, it's a little bit of a chicken and an egg situation, but how this goes will dictate a lot of the design of how the subdivision, in terms of stormwater and everything else, gets designed. So we kind of need this answer to move forward with that piece of it.
Got it. Thank you. John, do you want to walk through a staff report here? And I'd love to kind of hear your guidance on things we should be thinking about as we get into the details in this hearing.
Absolutely. All right. So, as you had mentioned, this is the first of this kind coming before the board because we just passed the inclusionary zoning bylaw at town meeting. Prior to this, all affordable units required a special permit, but it would basically be for on-site, off-site, or payment in lieu. So a couple things the planning board needs to keep in mind. There needs to be a finding in the decision, one way or another, that there will be a significant net benefit to achieving the town's affordable housing objectives as a result of allowing the construction or rehabilitation of a dwelling unit on a different locus than the development. So you either have to find that that's true or find that that's not true.
And sorry, John, can I just ask one clarifying question there?
Sure.
That's a significant benefit overall, or compared to if the affordable unit was built on within the proposed subdivision?
So that is up for the planning board to decide.
Okay.
It just says there will be a significant net benefit to achieving the town's affordable housing objectives. So if the board decides that that's a significant net benefit, having the property on a different locus, then that's something the board needs to find. As this is the first one, I just want to caution the board that there may be precedent set here. So take care in reviewing for that. That being said, we really do look to developers to create affordable units because the resources of the town are not as vast as a developer may have. And starting from scratch for the town, even with our Affordable Housing Trust Fund, it's not as cost efficient for us to go and develop one unit when a developer is working and can develop units, with their process in place and their team in place. So we do encourage developers to make the units rather than rely on the town to make the units. And then, I don't want to read through the whole thing, but in the comments in section 6.6.1 of the memo, I just want to be careful that the planning board does remain consistent with section 210-61G. And maybe I will read it because it's kind of ambiguous if I don't. Exercise of this option, which is an offsite affordable unit, shall not result in the destruction or demolition of existing structures unless the planning board determines that 1, such destruction or demolition is not detrimental to the neighborhood, and 2, where the proposed destruction or demolition of existing housing units is proposed, is consistent with the overall housing goals of the town. When the historic preservation bylaw applies to the structure, the planning board shall consult with the historical commission before making a determination. So that would only come into play at the point, if we approve this special permit, at the point where a location is identified, and then the plans for what that house or that location needs in order to convert it to an affordable unit requires. So I just want the board to be aware of that. And there's a couple different sections of the bylaws that come into play with this.
All right. Thank you, John. Appreciate your guidance there. And again, this is new for all of us. Matt, hang on one second here. Okay. Let's just looking to see if there's anything else that John didn't mention in the decision criteria. But I think John hit on it. So we've got a couple of hands raised. I see lots of hands raised. And do, just before we get into questions, and you guys tell me if you want to ask these questions before or after, I'd love to at least hear Rick's initial thoughts on what they're thinking, and maybe articulate in a little bit more detail as to specifically why a offsite affordable unit would be more beneficial to the town than other options potentially on the table. So I know there's a couple of hands raised, but I just want to kind of get that out first, and then I think that will hopefully spur a little bit more conversation.
Sure, I'm happy to address that. And it's just a very simple economic reality that building an affordable unit within a subdivision and all the costs associated with building a new lot and a new house, combined with what you would have to sell that unit for, the loss on that a developer would take makes the project just completely economically unfeasible, to the point where it simply won't happen. So we're providing the unit on site, the only option, then speaking for my company, we would at that point would abandon the project. And I can say with a pretty high degree of confidence that anyone else who comes along and looks at this project is going to come to the same conclusion. So if the town's goal is truly to create a new affordable unit, I think that either a payment in lieu or a unit off-site is really the only path that the town is going to find to actually getting a unit. And I understand that a payment in lieu does put the burden of obtaining that unit, back onto the town. So we've proposed to obtain the unit and permanently deed it as affordable, so that it will remain in the town's affordable housing stock. But I mean, that's just a very simple economic reality of what it costs to develop these lots and build a house today versus what that 3-bedroom house is going to sell for based on the DHCD guidelines for that purchase price, which I think is around $230,000.
All right, let's go ahead and go to questions. I saw a couple of hands raised, a couple of hands came down. Michael, your hand is still up, so go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just curious, and maybe John could answer this, or maybe the developer could. Do we have any examples of this being done in other towns around us, or I guess how the mechanics of this would work?
Through the chair, I guess yes. I can answer that. So
ahead,
just to clarify, you mean like having an offsite unit versus? Yeah. This happens across the state. Other towns do it. We just basically condition the special permit to, if you take a look at the conditions, it's, they have to identify the location, which has to be voted on by the planning board prior to the issuance of a building permit on the market rate units. And then there's a whole state process of how to make a unit an affordable unit. They have to meet certain requirements. They work with DHCD on that. And then we try and just basically work within the conditions to time it so that the affordable unit actually does get constructed and not kind of left till the end. Does that answer your question, or do you have?
Yeah, no, I think that pretty much answers it. Is there any other stipulations on it now about how close it has to be in proximity to public transportation or anything like that? Or?
So there's not, and that's something that the board can do. So we also had we had a comment from a member of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund board, Lucia Lopez, who I put it in the shared folder. We got it today, so it's in the shared folder now. But there's concerns about whether the unit should be similar to what the unit would be that would have been built. So if we're building single family homes on this market rate property, then does it make sense for an apartment to be the affordable unit? Because that's not what would have been constructed. So that's stuff that the board can actually condition, and the conditions that I draft are just examples and suggestions, and the board can add more conditions. We can work through those, and if you want them close to public transit, you can do that. If you want them to be certain sizes with certain number of bedrooms with certain amenities, we can work within that framework to get something that would be passable. But that's up to the board to decide.
Got it. All right. Thanks, John.
Michael, just one other comment, a little bit more history. The Chamberlain Wayland subdivision that's currently being built. In that situation, the developer, Paul Mastriani, had actually voluntarily tried to go down this path. To be candid, had a really tough time finding a property that lended itself well to this option. So they actually came back to the board and requested a payment in lieu of, because they did have a hard time finding a property that economically made sense to them. So it's hard. I mean, I think it's worth noting that it's not an easy process, and you're basically, the developer is basically going to buy a house or buy something, do some work to it, sell it at a loss, and then convert that into affordable housing stock. So just wanted to pass that anecdotal.
Just another wrinkle to the Chamberlain Wayland. They actually had to find 3 units offsite.
Yeah, fair.
So I think that I think they identified 1, maybe even 2, but then they had trouble finding the 3rd one. So they didn't push any further than that.
Matthew.
Thank you. I think a lot of the questions I had just got answered, but I'm looking to understand what, and I think you touched on this as well. Like, what's the outcome of today's meeting, or the intent from the applicant? Because it sounds like we can't approve a property without being some idea of where it is and its constraints. But are they looking for a set of criteria of what that property would be right now and potentially a vote on that? Or is this more of just what's the outcome they're expecting today?
I would love to get to a vote tonight. I wasn't really realistically hoping for that. But yes, at the end of this process, we would hope to get a vote that would approve us providing the unit offsite with certain criteria. And we understand that there will need to be some discussion about what that criteria is. And then we understand that special permit will have to be conditioned on the subdivision ultimately being approved in a manner that's quote unquote consistent with what we've shared so far. And then what we're proposing is that I think what we put in our application was that we would provide this affordable unit to the town or sell it, as an affordable, which is what I think ultimately happens, prior to the town issuing us a certificate of occupancy within our development. So therefore we can't convey a unit in our development until this unit has been conveyed. So I hope that answers your question. So tonight I didn't really expect that we were going to sit here and hash through what those specifications of that unit was going to be. But I am hoping that sometime in the relatively near future, we can put some specifications in place that define the parameters of the unit that the town's willing to accept, vote on the special permit conditioned upon permits for the subdivision. But that's just the way I that's my interpretation. The town may have a whole other process in mind. I can't speak for them.
Yeah. Thanks, Rick. And so, Matthew, it's a great question. I think the tricky part here is that all if we were to approve this, we're literally just kind of pushing it to the next step because there's a whole lot of other contingencies that have to be met. And again, one being the subdivision itself, and then two being that the affordable unit be built, refurbed, and handed over. So what I've been thinking about this, and what I think makes sense from a process is first for us to have some discussion as to whether we think an offsite unit is an option here. And then I think the second part of it is I do think that the more specificity we can provide, the better. Because where this fails or where this process kind of collapses is where we approve the special permit, but then the applicant goes through a whole lot of process to find a unit, to go through the subdivision approval process. And then they come to us with a parcel they want to rehab, and we change course and say, oh, that doesn't work for us. That's where it all kind of crumbles. So my take on it is the more specific we are in what we'd like to see, then that gives us something more specific to vote on, that gives the direction to the applicant that they need, and that helps reduce it helps improve clarity on what we're looking for those later points. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just want to make sure we understood what we were discussing as
Okay.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think the more specificity that we can define now, just because the example that you raise is exactly what we don't want to have happen, because at that point, we're too far down the road, and we need to know what we're obligated to provide. And obviously, we don't want to try and hit a moving target.
Yeah. Vic.
Hey, thanks, Gary. This is more clarification question for myself, maybe to John. You're closely to this and you help us a lot on this clarification. So is when they say 7 units and 1 affordable unit, 7 plus 1, or is it 6 plus 1, the affordable unit?
So it's up to through the chair. It's up to the applicant how they want to do it. The trigger's 5 units. So if they're proposing 7 units and one of those being affordable, they can do that. If they're proposing 7 market rate units and 1 affordable unit, then they would propose 8 units, right? So yeah, it's just kind of how it's worded.
So we're proposing 7 market rate units and 1 affordable unit.
So total 8. Okay.
Well, yes. 1 is arguably is already in existence. It won't be necessarily new, but I guess we're not sure about that.
Right. And the follow-up, maybe it was discussed, but I know there are specifications I'm getting into, but the size of this affordable unit should be the same as what the 7 units should be, or is that specifics which needs to be still hashed out?
That's exactly what we need to hash out.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Thank you.
All right, Navdeep.
I think my question may have already been answered, but we are focusing a lot on the specification of the affordable unit. Do we have the specifications on the unit, the market rate units as yet?
No, we don't even have. We do not. The subdivision has not been fully designed yet.
So far we've identified a piece of land where you want to put in 7 houses, but right now we don't know what the sizes is or anything like that at this stage.
Yeah, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't necessarily, number of bedrooms may be a requirement if we're, depending on whether we're using septic or sewer, but typically during the subdivision approval process, we don't provide or even design houses to that level until the subdivision's approved. So we won't be doing full architectural plans and specifications on these houses until after there's an actual subdivision.
Through the chair, just also comment on that. And I think the square foot, I think Rick's got a point. The square footage probably won't be the same, to be honest. I would say if you gave me, or if you wanted me to give you a recommendation on what criteria, it would be bedrooms, a minimum size of a house, so that there's a general idea as to how big those units would be. And then if there's like a particular location, generally, I think one of the comments that we got from the public is if it's in the same zoning district as the proposed development, that might be something that you want to do. So it's like those general type requirements, I don't think you're going to want to get an affordable unit the size of some of these larger market rate units. Affordable units at 4,000 square feet might not actually be affordable to live in for affordable homeowners. So it's really just like bedrooms. If we're catering to families in the market rate units, we should cater to families in the affordable units, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking is that it would be bedrooms, possibly bathrooms, possibly a minimum size square footage. I am pretty wary about being restricted on locations because, as I think we're all aware, finding one of these units is going to be very difficult. So, by just further restricting where we can find that unit, it just increases that challenge. But obviously, that's stuff that's got to be talked about.
Ronnie.
So first, I want to thank the applicant for coming with a well thought out plan when it comes to whether to pay in lieu or off-site. That was the general purpose of putting these numbers into place. Bluntly off the bat, I am supportive of off-site for the rationales that you provided based upon what you're trying to envision and the continued growth of our city. But if we're looking for very specifics, for me, it's very simple. In Hopkinton, close to public transportation, and the correct room size of what is deemed family. And that should, in my opinion, be the minimum restrictions associated with this off-site endeavor. Other than that, it's putting too much restrictions and makes it almost impossible for yourself, potentially, and any future applicant coming forward with these kinds of, if it's too restrictive. So that's my 10 cents.
Ronnie, one clarifying question for you. Public transportation, what do you consider public transportation in Hopkinton?
Close to a bus route or the train.
Okay.
Sorry,
Rick, did you have a comment or clarifying question?
No, well, just to follow up on his earlier comments, our thinking was in your inclusionary zoning bylaw, I believe the payment in lieu is calculated on a 3-bedroom home. So that to us seemed to be sort of a reasonable benchmark for what size house we should be providing as an affordable. There's a criteria for the payment in lieu. There isn't a criteria for the offsite unit, but it seems like they might as well be consistent.
I think that's a great point, Rick. And for me, just as one member of the board, I think that's reasonable. Yes, John.
Just want to share my screen real quick just to kind of talk about Ron's comment about the public transit. While I don't disagree, I think we need to have a little bit more public transit in Hopkinton. This is the only public transit line that I'm aware of. So that would limit the location significantly.
Okay, there's also near the Southborough train station as well.
Right. I don't know if there's a ton of
I was on
open properties around there.
Yeah, John, thank you very much. I was unaware because I don't use the public transportation in Hopkinton. I was unaware how restrictive or how minimal it really is.
Yeah.
So I could put the caveat, I hope it's near public transportation, but I really, or within say, a reasonable walk, being like, say, 10, 15 minutes from the train station, which a lot of Hopkinton is. But again, I don't want to, again, if this is a continuous process, eventually those lots would disappear altogether, and then this would prevent any future development. So I do agree with the applicant and Gary's comments when it comes to the 3-room aspect. It's, with what we have in lieu of, so it should be an apples to apples comparison. But I'll reword the public transportation comment now that you've shown that map.
All right. Elise.
Thanks. I was just a few brief comments in terms of the off-site location. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I think that's fine with me for all the reasons that Rick explained. I do think that it should be at least a 3-bedroom because most people who come here, to be honest, who have kids, or they might have a mother or mother-in-law who's moving in with them or something, you don't know. But I think a 2-bedroom is just too small for a family to live in if we're going to be putting things fairly. So I would say a minimum of 3 bedrooms. And as far as bathrooms, I would prefer if there was 2, if there's at least 4 people living in a house. But I've seen lots of houses here that have only 1 bathroom for 5 bedrooms. So I don't know if I would put a stipulation on bathrooms just because it's not, I don't know. I think it's not super normal here because there's a lot of old houses. But I'd say definitely 3 bedrooms, and probably, in my opinion, at least like 1,200 square feet at the minimum if you're having a 3-bedroom. Those are my thoughts.
All right. Thanks, Lisa. And I appreciate the specificity too. I think that gives us a really good starting point for these conversations. So appreciate your willingness to throw some preliminary numbers out there. Navdeep, did you have another question or comment? And if not, we'll go to Matthew again, and then we'll, okay, so what we'll do is we'll go through one more round with the planning board, and then we'll go ahead and open it up to the public.
Thanks. All right. Sami?
Yep. Go ahead, Matthew.
Thank you. Yeah, we've talked a lot about how about this, right? When we've been talking about the new inclusionary housing bylaw and procedures. And I tend to agree with some of the discussions that we had where it's beneficial to spread out housing around the town. One of the benefits of having this be included as part of new construction is ensuring that people moving to the house into the town, even if they're looking for affordable housing, have opportunities throughout the town, depending on what's available. But they're people get to move around the town. They're not isolated in one spot. There's a lot of variability in different parts of the town. And I tend to think that is a strong thing about Hopkinton, the way it's developed so far, is that there are a lot of variability, like going one street over. Houses can be a little bit different. It doesn't look like there's just one part of town. So I am wary about making sure that we have the right restriction, not just saying anything in a residential zone, for instance, and making sure that we are able to draft the constraints to be something that would be similar to if somebody were to move in, if one of these units were to be reserved for affordable housing. That said, if we could also draft it for something that is amenable to the schools, amenable to mass transit, amenable to utilities or resources like Main Street, I could see that also being usable constraints. But I do think I do like the idea of having the house be part of the new construction in principle, and the benefits that it provides should be considered as we draft any constraints for an alternative location. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Matthew. Navdeep, I think you just have your hand still raised. I don't know if you have another question or comment, but if you don't have a question, if you could lower it, that'd be great. All right, let's go ahead and so I'll just tell you where my head's at. It sounds like as a board, we do want to go into a little bit more discussion around what type of conditions or criteria we might want to have here. I'm hearing a couple of themes around, certainly number of bedrooms, probably square footage, bathrooms, maybe not. And then, some discussion around, if we want to consider a location condition of some kind. Before we get into details there, I know at least one member of the public had their hand raised, and I suspect there might be other comments. Chuck, do you have a question or comment? And just as a reminder, if you can start with your name and address, that would be great.
Sure. Thanks, Gary. My name is Chuck Joseph, 5 Benson Road in Hopkinton. As a real estate professional here for 38 years now, I've seen a lot of change in this town. And the affordable housing is always on my mind, not having grown up in Hopkinton and not having experienced the kind of affluence that we now see here. One of the concerns I have about the discussion here tonight and in the training that I do in real estate is that we keep talking about families. And we want to make sure that this affordable is available for a family. We're not allowed to use the word family. We cannot say it's a family neighborhood. We cannot do that because it implies that there are other people that are being eliminated. And I think one of the things you want to keep in mind about affordable housing is that there's a lot of single people, wage earners, who qualify for 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom units that would not qualify for a more expensive home. And I think we all kind of project from our own experiences, but there's a lot of seniors who are single who qualify for affordable housing, who really only need 1 bedroom, et cetera. And one of the options that I think might be available is if a 2-family house came available in Hopkinton that could be divided into 2 affordable condominiums, a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, et cetera. From what I gather from your discussion today, you're ruling that out because it's not a family-oriented 3-bedroom house. And I just caution the board to be aware that the number of social structures that we see buying houses are not always the nuclear family as has been defined over the years. And I think if you could keep that in mind, you might open up possibilities that you maybe have not been thinking about.
Thanks, Chuck. It's a good perspective to keep in mind. So thank you for sharing that with us. Are there other public comments at this point? Yes, Bob, you can just start with your name and address.
Yeah, it's Bob Cordner, and I live at 16 Chestnut Street. And I just wanted to circle back to the gentleman from Keystone. He remarked earlier why building the affordable unit on the proposed 7 lots to be built does not make financial sense for them. Could you kind of go over that again and explain to me, maybe in a little more detail, why that doesn't work for you?
Rick, you want to respond?
The cost to develop and construct a home in that subdivision, all in is, I'm really very hesitant to just start throwing numbers around because I haven't done that full analysis, but you're looking at over $1 million in cost to do that, to then sell it for $220,000 is, the project loses money, and therefore, why would one do it? Is the simplest way I could put it. That's what you're looking at. You're looking at investing over $1 million in a unit to sell it for $220,000. Very, very rough numbers.
And wouldn't that be the same in another location? Wouldn't that be the same issue?
No, because if we can buy an existing 3-bedroom unit in the neighborhood of $500,000 or $600,000 and sell it for $220,000, then we've significantly mitigated that loss.
So I think what Rick is saying is that the cost of new construction is higher than the cost of existing inventory. So the financial losses are less on that type of option than they are on building something from brand new.
Correct.
Any follow-ups, Bob?
No, I think, that's pretty much what I heard. I guess I was thinking that maybe there was a concern about what it might do to the potential value that could be gained from the other homes that would be built in that area. Was that a concern as well?
No, that's not a concern for us. We've done 40B developments in other towns, and we saw no impact to the market rate units by having an affordable component as part of the development. So that's not a concern. Now, obviously, you need to do a good job designing everything, but no, the market rate values wouldn't be a concern for us.
Before we get to your second questions, Ronnie, is there anyone else from the public that has a comment at this point? If not, then Ronnie, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, through the chair.
Oh,
I should
yes,
probably
John.
read Lucia's comment since she is a member of the public that she emailed.
From email earlier?
Yeah, I can do that right now if you want.
Sure, yeah.
All right. So Lucia Lopez, 4 Marshall Ave, wrote, is there a way to ensure that developers will not use the offsite option to concentrate affordable housing in one neighborhood? For example, can a condition be placed that would set the maximum ratio of affordable to market rate units in the offsite neighborhood? That is her comment.
All right. Thanks, John. All right, so I see 2 more comments, and then maybe we'll get into a little bit more discussion here on what conditions we might consider. Ronnie, go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair. So there was a comment that was made by the applicant that I just want to clarify because it just came up. So is the proposal to take an existing, for the offsite component, an existing, we'll call for the sake of argument, a single family home, even though I agree with Bob's comment, but taking existing home and just make it affordable, or to add a new affordable home to the market of Hopkinton, because otherwise the affordable housing percentile doesn't change at all by this.
Well, with all due respect, I think it does, because if we buy an existing single family home that does not currently qualify as affordable, put a deed restriction on it and sell it in affordable so that it remains as affordable in perpetuity, now it's part of your affordable housing stock.
Okay, I 100% agree with that. I think I just, mind you, from the earlier comment, the concept of taking a larger home and splicing into 2 is something that has a very good merit as well. So either of those options are on the table, but thank you very much for clearing that up.
Vic.
Oh, thanks. I had a similar question as Ron had it, but also one quick one. I know that we're getting a lot into specifications here, but just a little outline. Is that something like, a lot of Hopkinton towns doesn't have a sewer access or a water access. Either they have a well or, they have the private, this one. So is that something which plays a role in identifying these affordable homes at offsite?
I'm not totally understanding the question, but we can certainly have a house that has a private well and or a septic system and still have it be deed restricted as affordable. I don't see how one excludes the other.
Does that answer your question, Vic?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess maybe I can provide a little bit more color if you'd like in terms of.
Go ahead, Rick.
Our assumption is that this will be very similar to the process that takes place in like a 40B development, where the affordable unit in question will have a deed restriction placed on it in perpetuity. It will be sold through a lottery process that will be run by a registered agent to only qualified applicants who have to demonstrate certain income levels to qualify to purchase this home. And then that home, those restrictions will remain on the house, like, as I said, in perpetuity. So there's no real burden to the town in this process. It's our responsibility to identify the unit, to bring it into conformance to whatever specifications we agree on here tonight, to engage the lottery agent to go through the lottery process to make sure that it's sold to a qualified buyer, and to ensure that it remains affordable for the future. So that's all stuff that we're going to do, and that unit will then count toward the town's affordable housing stock in perpetuity.
All right. Thanks, Frank. All right. So let's if you guys are comfortable, I think we can talk about this in a bit more detail. We've got time tonight. So, and I kind of want to break this into three chunks. One is bedroom discussion. Would we want to condition this on number of bedrooms? Maybe we'll do bedrooms and bathrooms in that capacity. The second potential condition would be around minimum square footage. And then the third would be any considerations for location of said unit. And I hope that we'll see how it goes. But from a bedroom perspective, I've been reasonably quiet here, so I'll just kind of throw my comments out there first. I think there's a lot of good discussion around it, both from Elise and also from Chuck. And I'm wondering if there might be an option. I'll just throw this idea out there, but rather than condition on a certain number of bedrooms for one unit, what if we were just to condition the total number of bedrooms? So if we were to say, for example, condition this on 3 bedrooms, that could be one affordable unit, one affordable 3-bedroom unit, or it could be 2 affordable units, one with 1 bedroom and one with 2 bedrooms. And that way, I think Chuck made some good points. Structures and families are different. Not everyone is a family, and people have different needs, but that might provide some flexibility for the applicant as well, while still meeting the intentions of the bylaw.
Thoughts? Reactions? I like that. I second that proposal. I think it opens up the opportunities. And again, I don't know the rules. Will that actually create 2 affordable units? And again, changing the math that we're always concerned about when it comes to percentile. I'm not quite sure about that, but I'm all about the flexibility that it provides builders to ensure that it doesn't create a stagnation at some point.
Yeah, and Ron, if they were to build 2 units, then yes, both units would count towards the affordable housing stock.
And stupid question, but I'm assuming that the 3 bedrooms is a minimum. If we wanted to provide 4, we could.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, that's what I figured, but just checking.
Yeah, good question. I say of course because that's my perspective, so I don't want to speak for anyone else. But Navdeep, thoughts on the bedroom discussion?
I had not on the bedroom, but on just on the same path. One would be the neighbors. So now all of a sudden I'm neighboring a house that's worth 500,000. And now all of a sudden the value of the house has come down to 200,000. So maybe as part of the thinking, we should also think about that.
I'm not sure I'm following your question or statement.
Again, I'm sorry to distract away from the bedroom conversation, but it's more about the value of a house. So let's say I'm living in, Hayden Road, right? Right now, my value of the house is 500. The value of my neighbor's house is 500. And now all of a sudden that house becomes a $200,000 house. That's going to affect the value of my house too. So somewhere in the equation, we have to think about that also.
Yeah, I'd be cautious there for a couple of reasons. One, because I think that and I might be wrong here, but the transaction price isn't necessarily the market price there. And 2, while we all think a lot about residual property values, in general, as a planning board, we try to discourage individual impact on property values. So I appreciate your point, and I know that's something a lot of people think about is, well, if that happens next door to me, then what's going to happen to my property value? But I don't think it's quite as clean as something selling at market rate at a lower price. And I'm actually gonna. I see Chuck raise his hand, and given his profession, I'm going to guess he has some perspective on this. So I'm going to go a little out of order here. But Chuck, did you have a comment or response to that specific?
Yeah, thanks, Gary. I appreciate it. My understanding is that because the property will have a deed restriction, it is not considered a market comparable piece of data. There's a legal restriction on it that limits the value of that property. It passes with the home, and so that is not considered a fair market evaluation and would not affect the value of the house next door.
Thanks, Chuck. Matthew, thoughts? If we can try to stay on track with the bedroom discussion, I think that'll help us make some progress tonight.
Yeah, I have some anxiety about making a decision on the bedrooms tonight without more ability to get research and public comment based on. I just don't know I appreciate Chuck's input, but I don't know what the overall backlog is for each of those in the state. I don't know what the market looks like for each of those for people that are looking for those and what the demand is. I also look at why a lot of people would want to move into Hopkinton would be to take advantage and the state's desire to have affordable housing spread out is so that people of families would be able to have their kids in different schools. And wouldn't just necessarily be isolated, and those people would be more likely to be interested in Hopkinton would be able to better serve them versus one single person who would probably be fine in apartments. I'm just a little anxious based on not knowing the research and my understanding of the goal at the state level of what the affordable housing is trying to get to, realizing that may be not necessarily the best outcome for Hopkinton itself. Those are my anxieties.
Thanks, Matt. And I do think this is certainly a topic that I think there's a lot of thoughtfulness already and likely more thoughtfulness. So I personally do agree with you that I want to kind of work through some details here, but I'm going to recommend that we continue it just because I think that because this is new to us, I think it's going to be worth not only us providing some thoughtfulness, but also using it as an opportunity to get some additional input on it. So I think your points are very valid, and I agree with them. Elise.
Thank you, Gary. I liked your suggestion about just total bedrooms. After Chuck spoke, it did make me realize that I was just sort of thinking in my own mindset, and there are a larger groups of people out there in different situations, and we have to think about everybody. So I do like the idea that maybe if there was a duplex or an apartment, I sort of changed my thinking a little. So I like your idea about total bedrooms, whether it be 1 unit or 2 units. I think that opens up a lot of options while sort of keeping what we want on track.
All right. Thanks, Elise. Michael.
Yeah, mine kind of goes along the lines of what you were talking about, Gary, and I think what Matthew was thinking too. So if we did end up, splitting out the bedrooms and having multiple affordable units, is there like a limit on occupancy, or could someone potentially, buy like a 1-bedroom affordable unit and then have, 8 people living in it or something like that?
Good question. I think the interesting part, my experience with occupancy requirements, if they exist, is that they're very hard to enforce.
Yeah, I figured.
I don't know, John, if you have any input on that question.
What was your example, Michael?
I was just to Matthew's point, like, the big draw in the town is the school, right? I was wondering, is there any limit on occupancy? Like, let's say for like a 1-bedroom unit, or could, somebody potentially buy it and have, like 8 people living inside of it, like multiple kids or.
I mean, it's going to be the same as any other house. If you get a 3-bedroom house, can you have 15 people live in the house?
Gotcha.
Technically, I guess yes, but it's like Gary said, it's hard to enforce. You're not supposed to have more than 2 people per bedroom because that's just how it works. But there's really
don't careful, John. Don't generalize there.
No, I'm just saying in terms of like if you're on septic or sewer calculations, they have bedroom, they have gallon per day estimates based on bedrooms, which are based on occupancy for those bedrooms. And so it's tough to enforce, and it probably would be building code and fire safety code more than zoning. So it's not, there's no clear answer as to whether that can happen, because that can happen now.
I know. Yeah.
On any house.
Yeah.
No, and so yeah,
and
so it's
in any of our existing affordable housing stock as well,
or any of our market rate housing stock,
or market rate. Matthew.
Yeah, so just to, I think Rick mentioned the lottery earlier. There's eligibility requirements, as I understand it, that are based on the size of the family. So while nobody's policing day to day how many people are living in a house, my understanding is that generally it's matched based on eligibility for the lottery. So theoretically, it's what's there. Somebody else can correct me if I'm wrong. That's my understanding of the process.
The lottery is based on income levels, not number of members in the household.
All right, thank you. I thought there was a what size house as well based on the family, but maybe not.
The income levels are based off of the family size, but there's variables that go into it. So it's
Okay.
All right, let's talk bathrooms real quick. And again, I'm just gonna kind of throw a proposal out there. My preference actually would be to not put a minimum requirement for bathrooms. And the rationale is twofold. Number one, there are a lot of older houses that, in a prior point in time only had 1 bathroom or 1.5 bathrooms. And secondly, and just trying to be practical here, at the end of the day, the surest way to make something affordable is to make it smaller. Bathrooms are expensive. To me, there's certainly plenty of people that would be very, I think anyways, that they currently live in even 3-bedroom houses with 1 bathroom. And so while 2nd bathroom might be nice, I guess I'm hesitant to put a higher requirement than that. So that's just my thoughts. But members of the board, any thoughts on a bathroom requirement? And Vic, I think your hand's up first. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that putting restrictions of a minimum is not a well way to go ahead. But however, if at all we have to do it, let's put it as like a 1.5 bath or something. So that way at least this gives a little more flexibility.
Okay. Ronnie?
Although I think a 1.5 baths is nice. Again, if we're talking about potentially a system where there's a 2-in-1, does the 1 unit need a full 1.5 baths? So I think it's like, if 1 bath is considered the bare minimum by law, then we just shut our mouth. That's as long as they've met the requirements of what is considered livable indoor plumbing, and it's 1 bath. And I'm not going to. I do not want to put any restrictions on the number of baths, even by the half.
Other thoughts on potential bathroom minimum?
I think Elise wants to say something.
Can I talk, Gary?
Yeah, of course.
I agree to not put a restriction on bathrooms because I'm always on Zillow, and I've noticed that a lot of the houses in downtown, hold on, Kiki, like the smaller houses, the kind of the size that we're talking about, the older ones, most of them only have one bathroom. Okay. And sorry. And if those are the kind of units that might potentially be purchased, I think by putting a restriction on bathrooms, we'd be cutting out a large amount of our real estate in town.
All right, thanks, Elise. Any other questions about bathrooms? Okay, so I think we've, and again, we're not going to vote on this tonight, but I think it's helpful for all of us to have something specific to contemplate. Let's change gears and talk about square footage. And and again, I'll continue the trend, but I think I guess this gets a little bit more complicated as we think about the potential for multiple units. Again, I tend to err on the less restrictive side here, just because inherently smaller houses can be more affordable. But I like Elise's recommendation of a minimum of, maybe it's 1,200 total square feet. I know that's small by today's standards, but love to hear thoughts on, if we were to include a minimum square footage as to what the right amount might be. At least we welcome kids saying hello and welcome their comments as well. So don't feel like you have to hide them from us. Ron.
This is actually more of a question for Chuck, if he's willing to answer it. What is a typical size for a 1-bedroom unit? Because if we're going to say that it could be a 2 and a 1, knowing, because I have a moderately sized home, I don't know what's considered 1,200 square feet, if it can actually be broken into a 2 and a 1. And again, that's why I don't want to necessarily discuss the exact numbers at this point. So if Chuck, if you could give us a little bit of guidance, again, I don't like putting you on the spot, but if you're willing.
Spend my life on the spot, so don't worry about it. You're running into a little bit of a tricky question here, because you could run into a really nice 3-bedroom split level home that would work perfectly as an affordable house. But there's so much discrepancy on how people measure that. Generally speaking, there's 1,200 square feet above ground, and then the split level has another 300 or 400. And some people include it, some people don't. I think the 1,200 square foot is a good measurement for the minimum size for a single family. If you're looking at a 2-family with, say a 2-bedroom and a 1-bedroom apartment, you're probably minimally in the 1,800 square feet, but that's going to be idiosyncratic because there just aren't that many multiple family homes in Hopkinton. That's an outlier. All right. It could happen. But I think if you specify too large a home, you could be taking out of play for the affordable unit a really nice home in a good area that's well built that just may not be that large.
Doc, I'm really glad you're on tonight. Thank you.
Yeah. So in that case, from what was said, if it is a single family home, and again, I appreciate Chuck's educating us when it comes to what the definition of family we can and cannot say, but I'd say 1,200 is a nice starting number.
So I'm going to throw another option out there. And I guess as I'm just hearing comments, I'm wondering if we consider removing the minimum square footage requirement. And my rationale is that if we're requiring a 3-bedroom, if we're requiring 3 bedrooms, and there are requirements for it to qualify as a bedroom, I think that it's probably pretty tough to get 3 bedrooms in a permitted house in much less than that. And to Chuck's point, if we're open to the idea of it being multiple units, then it's certainly going to be, I think we'd want it to be bigger. We wouldn't want 800 square feet in a 2-bedroom and then 400 square feet in a 1-bedroom. I mean, I think that kind of, I guess it could always go bigger, but I guess I just wondering if there's really any functional benefit of having something relatively small as a square footage requirement. Thoughts?
No, I agree with that, Gary. I think, it's kind of all contingent upon the number of bedrooms, right? And then, the square footage will be kind of anchored to that. So.
Sometimes less is more, in the sense of, providing too much information, too much restriction. So if just saying 3 bedrooms, then, if that's enough, I'm also okay with that.
Okay. All right. Last, I think, kind of point of focus for us was on location. And, we've heard a couple of different ideas here. One is, certain proximity from transit, the potential for comparable zoning to where they're being built. I'll be honest, I don't think I have a strong position on this yet, but just given the discussion, does anybody from the planning board have a proposal as to what, if at all, we might want to include as a location condition of some kind? If not, I'll throw one out there for people to react to. I would propose that we don't have a location condition. And I certainly appreciate Lucia's comment that, we like affordable housing when it's mixed in everywhere. But I also just worry about putting arbitrary calculations in. And at the end of the day, we're talking about potentially 2 units here. And so the hard part is going to be finding a unit in which this works. That's just my take on it. So, but I see a few hands have raised. So Elise, go ahead.
Quick question. If we don't put a location, does it have to still be at Hopkinton?
I believe I'm going to defer to John on that, but I believe it does need to be built in Hopkinton.
It's a good question. I don't know if we specify that anywhere, but we can definitely condition it.
Yeah. We should, because we want credit for the affordable unit.
Our intent is to provide it in Hopkinton. That was always our understanding of the point. So,
thanks, Rick.
Maybe we should just clarify that as a baseline.
Yeah, I think we can make that a condition. Matthew?
I look forward to John's next small red line update on the conditions. You mentioned, Gary, that there's just 1 or 2 houses this time. I just want to go back to John's informative statement that we're setting precedent for how this works in the future. So I do worry I just worry how that looks if we don't think about what we want to head towards in the long run.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. But I also, the biggest challenge we're going to have here is finding properties or units that this could apply to. And the reality of it is that over the next, call it 10 years, I mean, even if we end up, let's just say we end up slotting affordable units, maybe it's 4 of them or 5 of them in some capacity. I personally don't find that overburdening in some way. So, you know, and I worry about being so restrictive, and I couldn't name a location criteria that I think is reasonable. I mean, residential B, okay, well, you know, what if it's the downtown district, or, you know, what if it's rural? There's other zones of which I think would be largely accommodating that I just worry about being overly restrictive. So I agree. I don't like the idea of clustering all of our affordable housing or big chunks of it in one spot. But I think that just logistically, I worry about how we might specify this.
Can I offer just a off the top of my head idea?
Sure. Yeah.
You could consider creating a buffer zone. So you could say that, you know, you can't have more than X number of units within a certain buffer of one another.
That's I'm thinking about what the repercussions of that would be.
I just made that up, so it might not even make sense. But just listening to what you guys were saying, it'll prevent everything getting too clustered, and it won't drive affordable into, you know, a certain area.
Yeah,
I think that's along the line that Lucia was asking.
I'm betting that Chuck has a reaction or thought to that.
With all due respect, I think you guys are beating a dead horse here. In all the years we've had the inclusionary zoning, I don't think there's been a single newly constructed affordable house built in our history, our zoning history. And I think the opportunity only rests in allowing a developer to provide an offsite affordable unit. And the fact that Hopkinton is pretty much well over the hump in terms of development and the magnitude of development, you're not going to be seeing a lot more of these. So I respect the discussion, but I don't think you're going to have to worry about too many affordable houses being in one area.
Sure. Vic.
How about this one? I mean, just a session where I'm trying to think through is that rather than putting a location specific and the size of the house and everything, why don't we give it to the developer the opportunity to bring it to the table, what he's proposing as affordable housing, maybe offsite. If it's not, he's not able to build it on site, the offsite. So then we can look through it and decide.
So I think that's a given that he's going to have to come back to us with the exact property anyways. Right. The intent here is to give them some guidelines as to what we would be expecting. And if it meets that criteria, then I think that you know, we've got a you know, I think that we have some responsibility to strongly consider that in our review. I mean, I hear your point. We could just say, you know, come back to us with a specific parcel and we'll go from there. But I think it's a big ask, and I think it introduces some complexities that are hard to manage on their end.
My only concern is that, as we mentioned, right, we're setting the precedence. If we start putting up so many guardrails around this, it might not, because with the property values and everything going around, it'll be going to be tougher and tougher day by day. So yeah, as long as it meets the criteria of whatever is the minimum is needed for the house, if the builder can or developer can get something out of it, and we should be fine. Or that's just 2 cents. But
yeah. Matthew,
we could settle on some criteria that are vague and continue to build precedent as we define those, such as something that's suitably similar to the houses being constructed and not clustering properties. We can figure out what that means later, just as a idea to throw out.
I would object to that though, just in respect to the applicant or the developer, because that just it leaves it so wide open that they've got to go invest a lot more time and money to bring something forward, of which there's not a whole lot of clarity as to how we might respond to it. And I guess I would push back and say, look, I mean, the reality is all we're talking about right now is that it be a minimum of 3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
I don't think that's overly restrictive. We're giving them options as to how they might meet that. That in itself is still might be hard to do. We've, found it difficult to do in the past. So, I'd argue that is pretty broad.
Speaking as the applicant, I agree that the 3-bedroom threshold seems reasonable and seems to some degree have been established since it's already in your bylaw in regards to the payment in lieu. But I do feel strongly that we need some specifics of what we're obligated to provide. We can't just, once again, be trying to hit a moving target. So if 3 bedrooms is in there and we need to provide 3 bedrooms, then I think that's.
I agree, Rick. I also don't want you guys to be in a position where you're having to keep bringing properties to us. How about this one? What if we did this? What if we did that? I mean, that's just not, I don't think that's a feasible option.
Well, it also becomes very difficult on the other side because we can't secure a property. If we go and buy a property, we can only secure it for so long. I can't go offer to buy something and tell people, I'll get back to you, when the planning board lets me know. Like there is.
All right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take the 2 last comments from Navdeep and Matthew. I am going to open it up to the public one last time. And then I'm going to recommend we continue it. And I think we've had a lot of good discussions tonight. I think certainly appreciate everyone's input. It's nice when we have people with thoughtful ideas. But I do think this is one that's new enough for us where I think we want to stew on it a little bit and come back. So Navdeep.
Maybe another little research that the developer can do is, let's look at currently in Hopkinton, are there properties less than 500 or 600K that are 3-bedroom? And that might also drive what is the minimum. Because at some point, it might make more sense to develop a new property versus buying the existing one. Because Hopkinton, we can all do a Zillow search to see what's available in Hopkinton for 500 or 600K in a 3-bedroom range. I don't think there's too many, which just means that it might make more sense to develop one versus trying to buy an existing one.
It could, and that's even with the special permit, that's still an option for the developer. They can always build one, as part of the subdivision approval process. So, Matthew.
Yeah, just going back to my last statement, I agree with your concerns about making sure that's something that the developers can rely on. My thought there is just we could have them give us, I like having people tell us why they chose something. If it's any reasonable story, we could accept it. But as I said, it's probably a bad idea that I'm just throwing out. So.
All right. Any last public comments on this subject? Not seeing any here. So Rick, are you comfortable with us continuing to the 21st?
I am.
Okay. Great. Then on that note, I will entertain a motion to continue this public hearing to August 21st, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Assuming no further discussion, Ronnie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
Navdeep?
Yes.
Vic?
Yes.
Elise?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And Gary is a yes as well. Okay, well, that gets us through our agenda. Just one quick update from me, and I feel bad continuing all these hearings because I will not be here on the 21st. I'm actually going to be on a business trip in Europe. And as Elise knows, the time change doesn't work so well 7 p.m. hearings would be very early in the morning. So I will not be here, but Rob is our vice chair. I anticipate will be chairing the meeting. So on that note, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'm Ron Pfeiffer.
Second.
Right, so we no further discussion. Ronnie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Elise?
Yes.
Vic?
Yes.
Navdeep?
Yes.
And Gary is a yes as well. So thank you all for good discussion. Appreciate the openness across all parties. And I look forward to watching the video of the next meeting. So have a good night, everyone.
Talk to you guys later.